Hey cinephiles, where do I even begin with Babylon? Imagine if Singing in the Rain snorted a 10-foot line of coke like that dude in the opening of Takashi Miike's Dead or Alive, or if you mixed a cocktail of Hell Caesar and Caligula, or if you paid a visit to the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures with Kenneth Anger and John Waters as your tour guides. This only begins to describe the latest film from Whiplash, La La Land, and First Man writer-director Damien Chazelle. Babylon is an uproarious, unfocused, gross-out, and drawn-out exploit. Babylon is also a dazzling, daring, intoxicating, and ingenious epic. In short, I think it epitomizes the clashing concept of a brilliant mess. Here is an exhausting and exhilarating 3-hour experience fueled by a bombastic original score that gives its performers a long runway and its filmmaker a long rope. Whether he ultimately hangs himself or lassos the moon will be breathlessly debated in this polarizing but undeniably brazen conquest. Babylon knows exactly what it is. That might seem like a strange or even obvious thing to say, but I think there's a lot of films or filmmakers that don't know, and that is often where their problems begin. Not Babylon though. For better or for worse, Chazelle knew exactly what he was making. Look no further than the film's synopsis. A tale of outsized ambition and outrageous excess. It traces the rise and fall of multiple characters during an era of unbridled decadence and depravity in early Hollywood. This blurb features some of the chief criticisms that have been and will continue to be thrown Babylon's way. It's refreshingly self-aware of its permissive nature and crystal clear about its purpose. This was further communicated by the film's very red band trailer, which begins with the sound of Margot Robbie's character Nellie Leroy snorting up a powdery Paramount logo.
If you could go anywhere in the whole world, where would you go?
I always wanted to be part of something bigger.
This introduces us to her and Manny Torres, played by Diego Calva, who at the start of the film find themselves atop the biggest party in town, a hedonistic microcosm of Hollywood circa 1926 during the golden age of silent film. As these two dreamers hatch plans to break into the industry, downstairs enters movie star Jack Conrad, played by movie star Brad Pitt. Little does he know the whole game is about to change with the advent of sound. This technological breakthrough, from which there would be no turning back, would see many silent stars fade into obscurity. But that day does not come before a long night of revelry, which is where Babylon initially plants its flag and lets it rip in the wind. The film kicks off with a prolonged orgy of sight and sound that ranges from the scatological to the cabaret, a trumpeting and tromboning elephantine blowout that is every bit as indulgent as the entire film. And just when the film's title reveals itself around the 30-minute mark and you start to process everything you've borne witness to so far, Babylon speeds off again at a breakneck pace, taking the shape of a Hollywood epic about the making of a Hollywood epic. We observe the army of people required to put on and pull off multiple productions, resulting in a feverish scramble to chase the light and get the last shot in the can before the sun sets and it's time to party hard again. The first hour of Babylon is already one of my favorite stretches in modern cinema. It depicts 24 hours in these characters' lives, a series of setbacks, successes, and all-around insanity. It captures the majesty and the debauchery that occur on set and off. What follows is a decade-spanning saga of several character sketches for the price of one. Margot Robbie, no stranger to stealing the spotlight, straddles it like a mechanical bull in this film. As Nellie Leroy becomes an overnight success, she beams and schemes at full wattage before an inevitable burnout. Robbie is as luminous as she's ever been.
I thank you.
I would say the same for Diego Calva, only I've never seen him before. This is actually more Manny's story than that of anyone else. He's our surrogate in and out of the film, and we see so much of it through his eyes. As he climbs the studio system ladder, we get a feel of each hard-won rung, the wonderment, the disappointment, and the bitter taste of compromise. Brad Pitt spends the first half of the film in a silly, suave, and often sloshed stupor that we've seen shades of before, though he really gets to stretch his legs in the second half as he senses the curtain closing and suffers a personal loss. Pitt brings an immense melancholy to the role as Conrad watches the parade go by. Jovan Adepo plays Sidney Palmer, a jazz trumpeter who goes from playing parties to headlining sensational musicals. Lee Jun-Lee plays Lady Fei Ju, a cabaret performer who moonlights as a writer of intertitles for silent films. While both are exoticized by showbiz, they each have their own career paths altered by the transition to sound. Babylon further shares its stage with an ensemble of characters working in front of and behind the camera. The co-stars, the extras, the directors, the assistant directors, the cinematographers, the suits, and more. It all makes for a populated tableau of hustling and vicing. Babylon bites off more than it can properly chew and digest in this regard, though I would submit this works toward one of the film's central messages about how Hollywood sucks people in, takes what they have to offer, and then spits them out. You will probably be forgotten, but you may also be remembered. This is a poignant truth, exquisitely monologued by a journalist played by Jean Smart in one of the film's several standout scenes, one of the few that features two people talking in a room. Taking its title from Kenneth Anger's book Hollywood Babylon, a tome of purported scandals from early Hollywood, many of which have been debunked, Babylon mixes biography with mythology. Although the major players here are all fictional, they each have their basis in actual historical figures. Over on IndieWire, Maria E. Gates has an enlightening piece that traces these lines of inspiration. And while I'm recommending additional reading, I'll also point you to Slate, where Hilary A. Hallett succinctly separates fact from fiction in Babylon, addressing whether or not old Hollywood was really as scandalous as it appears. Spoiler alert, it kind of was. I'll link to both of these articles in the description. I typically respond favorably to films that offer up an experience, films that don't merely take you by the hand, but strap you into an omni-mover for a wild ride. Well, Babylon feels like an entire theme park, wherein each scene is its own attraction, built around elaborate set pieces, supporting players, and gags. Anyone who has seen Singing in the Rain will recall the memorable sequence when they are shooting with sound for the first time. Babylon has its own hysterical version that is impeccably performed and edited, and gives character actor PJ Burns some much-deserved time in the limelight.
Mark.
Hello, Colin.
Jesus Christ. We are going again!
You also have Flea jumping around as a despicable studio executive, Spike Jonze playing a completely unhinged German director, and Jack Conrad's revolving door of wives. The film even throws the gossip junkies a crack pipe with an unlikely Pussy Posse reunion of Lucas Haas, Ethan Suplee, and Tobey Maguire. The latter shows up for a lengthy cameo that should give all the Bully Maguire meme creators out there an absolute goldmine to dig through. For all of its extravagant production design and ornate cinematography, my favorite element of the filmmaking has to be Justin Hurwitz's original score. This stacked 48-track album has quickly become my favorite of the year, and I am constantly humming any one of its several earworm melodies. From Welcome to Finale, it's a jazz-drenched dance party that ranges from the mild to the wild. Manny and Nelly's theme is a bittersweet, old-timey tune. Coke Room is an infectious ditty that sounds like an elephant slipped his trunk into the drug bag. Voodoo Mama, which was memorably used in the film's first trailer, is the work of a possessed brass band. I simply cannot get enough of this score, which also covers Singing in the Rain, Night on Bald Mountain, and even Hurwitz's own score for La La Land. In 2017, Damien Chazelle became the youngest ever winner of the Best Director Oscar for La La Land, a film that was both a critical and financial smash hit, grossing nearly $500 million on a mere $30 million budget. At that point, he was already in production on First Man, a masterfully restrained yet powerfully artful biopic of Neil and Janet Armstrong. While that film made a much smaller splash than La La Land, I thought it was one of the year's best and highlighted it in that year's Oscar snubs video tribute accordingly. After his historic Oscar win, which also claimed Best Picture for a couple of minutes,
La La Land.
A few minutes later.
This is not a joke. Moonlight has won Best Picture. Moonlight. Best Picture.
Chazelle became the hottest filmmaker in town, essentially earning that rarefied and enviable blank check status. I couldn't wait to see what Chazelle would do with that power. When I first heard details about Babylon, I was sold on the idea of Chazelle depicting old Hollywood, although I was expecting something along the lines of La La Land, an enjoyable, beautiful, and ultimately touching gem of a film. I was not expecting this.
Whoa!
Honestly, I didn't even know Chazelle had something like this in him. Babylon has more in common with the likes of Martin Scorsese's The Wolf of Wall Street, Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and even Paul Thomas Anderson's Boogie Nights. I have no doubt that a cinephile like Chazelle was influenced by those very films, though it's one thing to draw inspiration from and another to merit comparison, which I feel Babylon rightfully does. There have been a lot of movies about movies lately, yet Babylon reaches the highest highs and excavates the lowest lows. It shows us how cinema as an industry and a culture has lived and died and been resurrected over and over again. While there is an unmistakable cynicism about the studio system throughout, the remarkable epilogue is itself a celebration of films, filmmakers, and film going. I give Babylon 4.5 movie cameras out of 5. Babylon is the definition of divisive, with 55% on the tomato meter and a 50% audience score. The film has actually fared far better, understandably so, with the cinephile community on Letterboxd with a 3.8 average. Have you seen Babylon? If so, what did you think of this wild film? What was your theater experience like? And where does this sit for you in Damien Chazelle's filmography? Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you down there. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to Cineflect for video essays, film lists, and more.
I got this!
And click that bell next to the subscribe button if you'd like to be notified anytime I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching. For Cineflect, I'm JS Lewis. Until next time, watch something good.